Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. What's today's topic? Well, you saw in one of the past videos, and I'll show you a still picture of an antique dresser. I was trying to fix the very top of it, for the person that owns it. And so, kind of like a project. They're paying me and stuff. I don't know if I can match the finish because the finish is fairly old. I'm not sure what kind of stain or dye or whatever they used on it, but I was able to get it really close. So how did I do that? Well, I've got an assortment, like I told you, of Minwax stains and all kinds of different finishes. A lot of them I get from estate sales and stuff like that cheaply because people don't want the stuff anymore. But anyway, so I played around on the very back of it with different stains and doing different things. Sometimes like taking some stain in a container and then I would lighten it up a little bit, or I apply 2 coats to see if I can get it as dark. Finally, I got to where I got something that was acceptable. So I went ahead, I went through the sanding protocol. In this case, it had a lot of like water damage on the top surface. And let me show you a still picture real quick. This is of it right now without applying a top finish. Okay, so back to what I was saying. I went through my sanding protocol. This was a flat surface, so I used the random orbital, at first with 120 grit. After that, I put away the random orbital. I cleaned it off. I hand sanded with a sanding block. And I'll leave you links on the stuff that I use below in the description. And I sanded with the grain. And I used my dollar store glasses, like I told you in previous videos. And I looked at it real close, made sure I got out all the bad blemishes and marks. I cleaned it off again real well. I went to 150 grit, but this time I kept hand sanding it with a sanding block. And I would sand with the grain, and I would use my glasses. I would look down at it. I want to make sure I got off the previous grits, scratches, and marks. And I did that until I got up to 320. Now, at 220, I cleaned it off real well. I wiped it down with mineral spirits, let it dry, and then I sanded it again, like I said, till I got to 320. Now at 320, I stopped, and then I applied the stain. I put 2 coats on, which, like I said, matches it fairly close. It's not exact, but I think it'll work out well enough. And so, okay, so I'm at that point. Now I let it dry. I'm not in a rush. I let it dry, the stain and what have you, for the 4 or 5 days. I want to make sure it fully cures, gases off, does whatever it does. And that's the point where I said, okay, now I have some 3M pads, ultra fine, fine, coarse. I used the ultra fine, and I went over the surface again by hand with the grain with that. That gets off all the little nubs and the little pieces of debris and whatever else, and I got it super clean. Now, I did that this morning because now I'm ready to apply that top finish. Now I'm going to use Watco Clear Gloss Lacquer. And what I'm going to use, give me just a sec, I'll show you. Alright, so I had to go get my HVLP. Now this one's made by Cobalt. I have 3 of these. I have a much bigger one that I got from Harbor Freight. And then I've got even a smaller one similar to this. Again, I got it out at Harbor Freight. They all 3 work perfectly fine. So long time back, I went through all the criticisms. If you take care of these and you clean them correctly, when you're done using them and you take care of them, they've lasted me for years. This Cobalt one, I think I got it out at Lowe's. They were discontinuing or something. I got it on sale. Right now, there's currently sales on all of these. I'm going to leave everything in the links below. If you click them, it'll show you what the discounts are and so forth. Anyway, I'm going to use this one today. I'm going to use the Watco Clear Gloss Lacquer. So I'm going to pan around here in a minute, and I'm going to show you the top of that dresser. And you'll see me spray it briefly, because then I'm going to shut the camera and everything off. I'm doing this in my garage. Now, my next precaution here is I got everything out of the way in the garage, and I did some masking with some Visqueen. I got everything in the garage as clean as I can. I let everything settle down. There's no wind today, so I'm doing this in the best controlled environment that I can. but I'll show you how we'll take care of everything. So let me pan around right now. Let's get started. Let's apply that lacquer, and we'll go from there, and we'll figure out how many coats, and I'll show you how I do it. Now when I'm doing this, you can actually feel under your hand it getting super smooth, or you can feel some little bumps. So I'm getting off all those little nubs, and you'll see a little bit of stuff come up from the surface. But you're not really lifting up the stain or anything. I'm using the ultra fine, 3M emery pads. And so you don't go crazy, you get it all done. Now, I'm going to blow this off real quick, and then we'll start applying the lacquer. Okay, so to pick up on where we left off, I've got my random orbital sander now, and I'm going to sand the top of this very lightly with 320 grit. I'll clean it off real well, then I'm going to go over it with 400 grit, clean it off real well, and then I'm going to put kind of a wax finish on there, and I'll show you those steps. But I'm doing that because the lacquer, the gloss lacquer, I use gloss because I can always dull it down, from being gloss to semi-gloss. So the rest of this, the way it's finished, is almost like semi-gloss. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start the sander. I'll show you just a little bit of it, and then we'll stop because you don't need to watch me sand. And I'll get back with you when I get to that 400. Okay, so I finished with the 400 grit, and I went with the grain and I sanded it by hand. I cleaned it off real well. I felt it, and I thought I'm going to add one more step. So I got some 4/0 steel wool, and I lightly went over the whole surface. Hard to tell in the video right now, but this is about as smooth as glass. So now we're going to try and put some wax on there, a wax finish, and we'll see how it compares to the rest of the dresser here. Hopefully it comes out great. We've made it this far. All right, I'll see you in just a sec when I apply the wax. Okay, so now I've decided to apply that top wax final part of the finish. I'm using Howard's Feed and Wax. It's an orange oil-based wax, but it should make it come out to be fairly clean, just like the sides of this and the finish that it has. I'm trying to match everything the best I can. So I think that this is going to work. I'll show you how I apply this. I got a piece of 4/0 steel wool. You could use a cloth, and I just coat it real good everywhere to begin with. So that's about the halfway mark, and then I turn around and come back, and I start doing this in swirls. This is kind of an open grain wood. It's got a really, I don't know, kind of a deep grain pattern to it, and I didn't want to sand it way down. So anyway, this should work fine. So I do this in swirls, and this is like feeling like glass, really. And then I go with the grain. Now I'm going to do that for the whole project. And then I let it dry for about 30 minutes. I take it off with one of my shop towels, just a regular towel, and then I buff it. I buff it by hand. You could use a machine, but I do it by hand. So I'll be back with you when I get ready to take this off and buff it. All right, time's gone by, so we'll use a towel, take it off, and then buff it. We'll put it together. Let's see what it looks like. All right, you could use a towel or anything that you want. I got a piece of, it's like wool. and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to just hand buff this thing, and then we're pretty much done. And I will put it together. We'll take some final pictures, see how close we came to that original finish, and you know, hopefully the lady that wanted me to do it likes it. All right, folks, so this concludes the project. It's hard in a video or even in these still pictures to show you what it truly looks like, but it did come out real close. I think that the lady will be impressed with this, and I think she'll really like it. The only struggle, like I said, was figuring out, how to get close in terms of the stain to, the original dresser, but we managed to do it. Used Howard's, feed wax on top, scrubbed it down real good, buffed it off. This is what it looks like. So that's it for this project. We'll move on to another one. I don't know if it'll be welding or woodwork, but we'll find out something. All right, until next time, I hope you click subscribe. I hope you follow me. If you do things differently in terms of wood refinishing, or you have a better idea, drop it in the comment. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. You folks have a great day. Bye-bye.